for it.
So let's see. It's been 28 minutes troubleshooting Zoom, and this is awesome. And it's funny because this is actually a really great concept and notion. And the notion is that you train even on your worst days, and we should be able to train on our worst days. So, like for me, dealing with technology is the worst day, and here I am showing up. So it's like I want to acknowledge myself.
Yeah, yeah. I just kept waiting for Alex in his personal training room, or personal meeting room for twice as fit, and that's not where he was. So, yeah, but we figured it out. We're here. We've arrived.
Woo! Oh man, yeah. Thanks for showing up, man. I'm excited to dive into it today. Because today, like, what I really wanted to dive into with you as we take each other and all the people watching on the Twice as Fit journey, um, it's really about concepts of learning today, and it's about quality then quantity. So what I want to do is I want to pull up three slides, and with these three slides, this is how people start, and this is things for people to think about when they get started with training. Okay, let's pull this up.
And while you're pulling that up, Alex, it's so apropos for something I kind of came up with, I guess. I don't know, was inspired to share, but when we're learning, we shouldn't sacrifice depth for breadth. So as we go deeper into one subject, everything's interrelated. And the further we go down, so long as we're looking around and kind of relating it to other things, we'll end up getting closer to the truth and have a deeper understanding, going deep into one subject rather than just kind of skimming the surface of all these other subjects. And we'll kind of get lost. We'll kind of lose the landscape, get lost out in there rather than sticking to getting down deep into that one trail. Um, so yeah, I wanted to share that.
Hmm. It's like meeting people where they're at and taking it one step at a time.
Yeah,
Let's see. Where are we at here, senor? Can you see this?
I can.
Do you see the three slides?
I do. I do.
I
They're on a grid.
I don't see them.
I wonder if I can move them. I can move them. So you have a red box that has the number one. I am willing. Am I willing to be wrong? Excuse me. And number two, am I willing to change?
Hmm. Yeah, I see that, and I don't see it. It's like I put. It's like blank. It's hold on. Let me one more time. Oh my
Oh, that's
god,
great.
this is seriously like the best training day ever, and by best I mean the word. Oh man.
Yeah. So here's a concept to apply to our lives. It's endurance. So yeah, sometimes something's worth doing, and if it's worth doing, we might have to endure through some some small hiccups and tribulations and obstacles. And if it's really worth doing, then go ahead and tackle those obstacles. That might be what life is putting in front of you to prove to you that, hey, this is worth it. And at the end, it's like you prove to yourself that, hey, I really stuck to this thing, even though it was hard, even though it was difficult, and I found obstacles in my way. Um, you'll have that gratification.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, it's like doing your diligence, and then it finally comes through and keeps showing up. And for me on my end, it's not showing up. It's just showing a blank screen right now. So let's see, what can we do? Hmm. I'm wondering how I can, because you can see it though when I pull it up.
Yeah, it's not in a slide format. It is in. It's just like on a. Think of like the Matrix when Neo
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's just like on that big white expansive thing.
Yeah, because for me it's just a blank screen, and my thought is that if I'm recording this and it's just blank, it's not going to show up for people. So
Wonder
I'm
if
wondering how
here,
we can.
let's view comments, no color. Oh, no, I don't know. I had some options in there, but I don't know if I'd be able to help you.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on here. Let's see if we can do this. Now, can you edit it at all? Can
Let me see.
you?
Let's try. It's preparing. I'm preparing your whiteboard experience. So I would imagine people are going to be able to see what I see. I'm going to see if I'm going to be able to move it or anything.
I'm thinking maybe if you share your screen type of thing. Hmm.
Okay, so yeah. So I'm able to write on this thing. I can
Yeah,
scribble and stuff.
yeah, and on my side it's just blank.
Maybe you got to move. Are you in the wrong space?
I,
It's
I
just
see
blank. You see all those dots?
I see where you're clicking. No, it's just blank. I see a yellow box and I see your name popping all over the place.
What about this? Do you see this now?
No, I don't. Now I do.
Do you see the
Now I
screen?
I don't see anything now. It's just blank, and then like that little yellow box. I see you now. I see you now.
All right. On my thing, I'm able to see. All right, let's see here. This is so. Oh, you know what? Dude, you gave me like, I'm gonna stop presenting. Let's see. Okay.
Yeah, try
Can you do
presenting.
any? I stopped presenting. I was presenting.
Try it again. See if Let's see if it
Okay.
pops.
No, it just ended. All right, let me see here. Yeah, man, whiteboard. Let's see. I'll open my whiteboard, see what happens. See if
Yeah, let's see.
maybe you're now. You see anything?
Mm-mm.
No? Darn it. Well, you have some pretty basic whatchamacallits. What if you pulled them up on your phone, pulled up those side screens and just showed it to your camera? Adapt.
Hold on a second.
Sure, we're gonna edit this. But what a funny thing.
All right. Well, we got the first two up. Am I willing to change? Am I willing to be wrong? Can you see that okay?
I can, yeah. That's
Okay.
perfect, yeah.
Okay. So these are the first, what we're going through is we're going to go through the first three bits of context that people really can consider when they start training. And the reason why these are important is because this really puts you in the position of optimal learning, quality, and actually retaining the information. Okay. So the first two questions are: am I willing to change? Am I willing to be wrong? Now, these are important because when you're training and you're evaluating and assessing your life with your training, you have to be willing to change, to do things better, do things differently. Also, you have to be willing to be wrong so you can get out of your own way. And that's a huge concept of training and a huge concept of life, getting out of our own way. great example right now is I wanted to get so frustrated and mad about, this technology not working. It seems so simple and it's not working. Like, I just want it to work a certain way, but it's like, well, what good is that going to do to get all mad? Because ultimately, I just want to teach. So what do I
Right.
do? Is I troubleshoot it with you, and we work through it.
That's right. Yep.
So these are the first two questions. Now, what this puts us into the position next to is teachability. Okay, now teachability is a bell curve model. Okay. Now, what this is all about is getting yourself into the prime position for being teachable. And when we're training and you're learning with us, it's important that you're in an optimal position so you can get the most out of it. So,
Alex, I want to share something with you. So I'm in
please,
home, I'm in Lowe's, and I walked over to where they have their chair.
you mute it.
Thing.
There you are.
So I'm seated. Did you miss me? Did you not hear me?
I missed like 15 seconds of it because you muted.
Okay,
So if you that
gotcha.
for
Behind me, there's like chairs, right? There's probably see that table. So I'm in Lowe's right now, and I went over to where they keep all their decking and outside porch materials. So I got into a position for optimal learning. I'm sitting in an upright position in a comfortable chair.
right on. At attention. and so like that optimal position for teachable, where you're going to learn the most, how much you learn is between teacher and student, right between trusting and skeptical, gullible and cynical, as well as arrogant and naive. So it's like we don't want to be completely open-minded and we don't want to be completely cynical. But so it's like we want to find some place in the middle, skeptical, open-minded, and also skeptical, so that we can take in information in a way that makes sense for us. And that's the so it's really, it comes back to also is like, what information are we taking in? So that puts us in the optimal position for teachability. Now, the last slide, and then I want to open it up to the floor with you, Sean. I'm curious what's showing up for you, is learning retention. Now,
I'll blow that up.
can you
There
see
we
that?
go. Can you put it in portrait? Not you have it in portrait. Put it in landscape. Let's see, there we go. Look at that.
Ah, okay.
There we go.
So this is learning retention. And if you look at it at the bottom of the base, we retain 90% of our information by teaching others. Then it goes up to practice doing, discussing, demonstration, audio visual, all the way up to lecture. Okay. So what I find to be so amazing about training is that we find ourselves in the bottom three. That's where Twice as Fit really focuses on being with clients, teaching, practicing, and discussing. So much of the time, as we discuss concepts, we discuss goals, we discuss whatever you're training, we then start to practice it with movement. And then a lot of the times, and Sean and I, a lot of the times what we do is we have people teach us what they're learning as we go along so that they teach us, they can actually retain it, right? So you guys are actually paying us for you guys to teach me. So just a little little update.
Yeah. You know what popped in my mind when you showed me that graph, and I kind of like related it in my kind of funny way of me relating everything to everything else is the Eastern form like way of training wrestling in particular. So if you look at the history and the record books of the Olympics for wrestling, the Russians have like always been the best. Always. It's kind of like hockey. And their approach is play. So they constantly just play, like play train. There's no hard sparring. So in that, they don't have the ego of like, I almost saw that thing as like an ego. It's like, oh, I'm going to lecture you. And then so I'm going to let you teach me. So there's that continuum going through. And the less ego that you have, and like the less you're trying to exert like your force, and it's like, I'm gonna present to you, I'm gonna this, oh, let's learn together. Like, hey, let's do this. Hey, how about you teach me? And then you get into that space, and that's when you're most allowed to learn both ways. So interacting on that teacher and student interface in a partnership.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, movement is play, and I find that play is really where we can explore and be creative, and that's where we do figure things out. And I notice that when we are rigid or closed off or skeptical, too skeptical, almost cynical, we don't learn very much. Because physiologically, we're not in that space of learning and expansion. Rather, we're in the space of rigidity and like it's almost like survival. So it's like we're just focusing on survival rather than being creative and playful. That's a really good example too. The Russians and the wrestling, and that in such a sport that can be so like, like, and
Mm.
it's so individual too. So it's interesting that they have that approach, and it makes a lot of sense.
It does for sure. And you'll find that the more successful gyms and the people that are having the most amount of fun are not going to be very uptight where it's like, oh, you must listen to the sensei. Like he must teach us everything. It's no, it's the guys that are like, hey, what did you learn this week? We have YouTube University now. Everybody can learn from each other. So like a sensei that's going to say, hey, I know everything and this that, and the third, you're going to handicap your students. So to teach simple, basic.
Hmm. You know, I find that you touch on what's really showing up for me is something that's going on in especially like youth sports and with youth. And I'm really grateful for when I was growing up, I was in organized sports, but we had off seasons and we also were encouraged to play and go play outside and not have any structure to it, just play. And and I see this time where kids are so schedule oriented and scheduled and so rigid and it's not really seen as play anymore because it's so rigid and there's no room for creativity and expansion. It's just so boxy, and I see a time now where kids they're malnourished, they're overstimulated, they're underplayed, they sit too much, um, and that needs to change. Um, so going back to your play example, I don't think kids should be in organized sports all year round by any means. They need to be playing and they need to have unorganized things and they need to go out and fall down and scrape their knees and not be guided by their parents and go out there and actually just play and be creative. And it's interesting because it feels like it's being outsourced to like phones and technology and all this stimulation and entertainment.
Mm, yeah, yeah. And that, that falls into that spectrum as well, audio visual. That's all this thing is audio visual, 2D audio visual. There's no depth, there's no pain, there's no suffering, there's no triumph over this conquering of this challenge. It's just all audio. And that's kind of like the space that we're in now. It's like, okay, we're gonna either you could stay in the 3D, or you could tap into your spiritual side as well and get into the 4D, or you could go into the 2D. What's it gonna be? The choice is yours. I don't personally want to be in the 2D, and yeah, we are offering this, and I almost see this as like casting a line, like fishing. So like you're in a boat, right? And like as a human, you could choose to go in or out of the water, Like I could go up here, but I'm casting my line into the depths to pull something out, right? So that's kind of what we're doing here. So a lot of people are taking in audio visual training and like lessons, right? So we're just throwing that hook in there, you know. We're putting our own funnel in there where it's like, hey, here's an option for you guys, like going deep. Like let's see what is this about? And they might be able to raise you to another level, which would be, on the surface, beyond that glass ceiling. Like if you're that's a kind of a funny thing too. You go underneath the water and it's a mirror, as you look up, it's
Mm,
kind of like a mirror. Yeah. And everything's kind of obfuscated. Yeah.
mm.
Pretty interesting.
what I noticed too with all the audio visual and the lecture stuff and the reading, which is great by the way, it's like we can take in such a massive amount of information over the internet and on our phones, listening to things, audio visual as we're talking about. Um, and then it like gets to a point where it's almost like mental masturbation. And then we're not actually in action about it. So like we're all cerebral and like we're not actually in our body feeling it and experiencing it. And what I love about training is you see us like one, two, maybe three times a week for 30 minutes or an hour. And like you only learn so much. And in that
Mm.
little bit you learn, you practice that and are consistent with it. So it's like, you come in tomorrow and you have a session from 8:30 to 9, we'll say, and we'll talk about stability and like just that one concept. And then it's like, then before your next session, whether it's 2 days or 4 days, like you're going to focus on stability and you're going to really practice that. You're going to discuss it with yourself and other people. You're going to teach yourself and other people. So then you actually really learn it. So it's like
Mm.
you take off a little bit of a chunk and you go out and experience it. Then you come back and then you keep doing that, right? And that's what training is. So it's like, that's why for me, it's funny to give people programs. I mean, it's hard to say.
Mm.
It just depends on how long, what your goal is and how long it's going to take and where you're at. But it's like,
Mm.
it's funny because it's just like these things are, you can practice them for as long as you need to and want to. But it's like, it's about taking those little steps and
Yeah.
really owning that.
Yeah, I just came up with another analogy. So, like people that really appreciate food, they're not going to go to a five-course meal like French restaurant and then say, "Yeah, just throw it all in the blender. I'll take it." Like in a smoothie. No, they're going to like take that one bite. Oh my God, yes. Like they really fucking learn what it takes to have this fucking salad like go to the next level, right? And then you go to the next meal, right? And you savor the flavor of every single aspect, right? And then you look back at the experience and it's like, "Oh wow, it's so fucking diverse," rather than, "Yeah, calories in, calories out, bro." Just like throw it all in the blender, man. Like and that's kind of how we live. We don't appreciate, we're not mindful of every aspect of what's going in. We live in a, put it in, like get the calories, get the nutrients, get, the Cliff Bar kind of mentality. And it's like, yeah, who cares about the ingredients? It tastes good.
Mm. A means to an end is what shows up.
Exactly.
A
Yeah.
means to an end. And I find that people want to enjoy the process. And I find that when we slow down and we feel and we're in our bodies, then we actually enjoy the process. And it's good to have goals and it's good to have outcomes and results. There's no question about that. But also like not getting so caught up in it. I notice that when I do enjoy the process and I enjoy that one step in front of the other, I am actually learning like as I go along and I'm retaining this information. And I find myself somewhere between that skeptical and naive and somewhere between that teacher and student. And I can read the situation well. So then I can properly assert myself. And
Mhm.
I find that when I do that, I make the most of each and every moment. And I'm also able to keep my eyes on my goals, have that direction in mind.
Mm. Yeah, that's some you mentioned assert yourself, and I'm gonna feel into that a little bit. So I've been um getting into starting my own business, minding my own business, right? So you can't mind your own business unless you have a business, right? So that's the kind of process that I'm on, is minding my own business. And so I just got my holding LLC approved through the state of Wyoming. Pretty excited about that. And with that said, it's like I'll share that information. I kind of open that canister because there's so much excitement there. It's like, oh, it's so cool. And I share it, and it's like you get feedback, and it kind of taints it, you know? And it's like, well, what, I'm gonna go ahead and seal that canister back up, keep that potential energy within there and like not expose it to other people. And you had mentioned, what was the word you used? You used like assert yourself, right? So like you can't truly assert yourself unless you're really truly yourself, and it's like you're not being like kind of influenced by other people. Does that ring true for you?
Yeah, and I remember reading a book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, and a saying really stands out to me. And he said the biggest reason why people fail is because they listen to their friends and family. And I I like to tell people things after it's done and said. Um, because even good advice, like it's not only the bad advice, the good advice kind of colors and it adulterates our thought about it. So it's like I like to have the idea fully formed and expressed, and then it comes out and shares. And in business, they call that managing expectations. So absolutely, I've actually that's something that I've been going through recently. With my parents too, is like as I've been shifting my business and stepping into new places, some of their I've been telling them out of excitement because I love them, and sometimes they give me just ideas and it completely colors it, and I have to like get back to what I really want to do and what it really is really. So for
Hmm.
me it's like it's like it's helpful to have things done and said, and then I like to share them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a hard lesson, man. It's very difficult to have that discipline as well, because we get a lot of, it's like, dude, I just took like such a big risk. I made this investment. I don't want to tell people. It's like, dude, keep that energy, keep that to yourself, keep it to yourself, and
Mm,
really allow it to foster, because you're getting a channel from on high that's telling you to do this thing. That's why you're able to get the courage to take that on, right? So having other people, it's like merging rivers together. It's like, well, they're on their path, you're on your path. Don't merge the rivers, don't mix the waters. You don't want salty water with fresh water and vice versa.
yeah. Yeah, it's important to have that strong canister. And as a business owner for 12 years almost, like it takes something to start a business, like people don't really talk about like the dark side of it, and like you have to have something quality to come back to like to teaching and learning. It's like you need to have something like really quality, and you need to be consistent, and you need to get used to hearing a lot of no's and no replies, like until you get those good yeses. And it's so beautiful that you're mentioning this because like I heard this saying that like 99% of businesses fail within the first 10 years, and it's why. It's difficult to be a business owner, especially when you're starting from scratch. So, to go back to those three slides, like the two questions, am I willing to be wrong? Am I willing to change? The teachability, somewhere between student and teacher. And then also learning retention, having people learn and have it be quality and actually retain the information. It takes consistency and it takes discipline to discover something that's really going to help people, and it has to have purpose so it can withstand all those potential energy leaks, all those different stories, all the considerations, all people's opinions. Like it takes something and it needs to have integrity and structure, or it ain't going to float, it's going to sink. So
Mm.
I acknowledge you for following your dreams, and as it continues to form together, I'll be curious to see how that shows up for you. And that's really what I'm about too right now too. It's like really as I take twice as fit online more, and like I'm exploring these new spaces with like what the non-for-profit looks like with, it's like it's a lot of things to manage, and it takes consistency, and it definitely takes a commitment. It doesn't come easy. It's earned, it's not deserved, it's earned.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would recommend people. So I've been kind of on this path, and life has kind of thrown things at me where it's like, dude, you got to figure this out. Like you have no other option. You have to figure this out. And I invite people to look back on their life. Like life is like the teacher, right? Where it teaches you along the way. It's like keep your eyes open and like keep that hope and that those aspirations alive. And so long as you're doing that and you look back at your life and say, what have I learned so far? That's your groundwork, right?
Mm,
That's your groundwork. That is the foundation for what you're supposed to be doing later on. So I just turned 30, and I think it's so interesting that when babies are born, we age them by months, right? Well, if we continue to age ourselves by months, when we turn 30, we're 360 months old. What is 360? It's full circle, right? So we had that full circle there. Now, okay, what's the next circle? What's the next cycle going to be like? Well,
Mm,
if I build off of that first cycle, hey, it could be pretty good. Or do I want to just relive all the same pain and trauma and so on, but start learning all the lessons over again? It's like, no, I'm gonna like take what was there. What did I learn? I've learned a lot about myself. Okay, how does that interface with my environment? For me to really interface in a super productive and natural way.
mm. Congratulations. 30 years, 30 cycles around the sun, so to speak. Thanks for sharing. And and this is what I'll complete with too, as it's coming up to the hour. Um, you know, I find that when we're a business owner and just in our lives and our purpose, really, I heard this one time from one of my teachers is in order to really be successful and really be all in, so to speak, and really convince yourself, you have to take the island. And what that looks like is you get to the island and you burn your ship. And it's like it takes that type of commitment. It's like backing yourself into that proverbial corner, like taking the island no matter what. And you're so confident and you're courageous. And this is so much part of your path and your purpose that you burn your ship.
Mhm.
And that's really what it takes here in your life to pursue your purpose. And no one's going to do it for you. So thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Thanks for persevering and keeping it going. You're like, all right, last try. And I was like, I'm not gonna let that happen today. Yeah, man. Yeah, and it's take people can take this as an example. I'm out on the job right now. I'm gathering materials, and I took the time because this is a passion project for me. This is what is really really important to me. So I have my business, but I'm also a partner with Alex, right? And that's super important. Mine and Alex's relationship is extremely important to me, and Sean for that matter as well. And twice as fit, and I took that commitment, and it's like, okay, I got to make the time for this, right? Because it serves and it plays into what I've gone through in my life. So I'm not going to ignore that, right?
Hmm.
If I have multiple hats at the same time, so be it. So be it. That's part of who I am. I'm very eclectic.
Hmm.
And if you guys are eclectic, you need to make space for those diverse activities as well.
For sure. Thanks for that reminder.
Absolutely.
Have a great time today in your project. Much love. Thanks for dropping in today.
Yeah, man. Love you too. All right,
I'll see
guys. Take risks. Have fun.
you. Take risks, have fun, burn your ship.
All right, guys. See ya.